Good morning.
Good morning to our readers, and we thank you. This is our 6th annual Rancho Mirage Writers Fest, and we are pleased that you're with us. Any angels in the room? We love you. We love our readers, but we really love our angels. But we thank you for your generosity, your support, and this festival has blossomed from 30 authors at $125 and 300 readers to now 800 readers, 175 angels, which is really times 2, so that's 350. And at any one time, we may have as many as 1,100 people in this building, which was never designed to do this. And we just love doing that. I mean, let's just stretch it and make it elastic and twist it all around and make this festival the best it can be. So, Lord Peter Mandelson, welcome.
Thank you, David. Glad to be here.
Peter, we're on first name basis. I've never been on a first name basis with a Lord before, so it sounds kind of crudely American to do that, but that's who you're talking to. But we thought we would begin, our little scheme is to explain to you, well, Peter will, how does one become a Lord? What does that title mean?
It means that you're given it. You're not elected to it. Hopefully you merit it. But you're actually given it by the Prime Minister or the leader of your party to sit in the upper house of Parliament, which is what the House of Lords is. And not only are you not elected to it, appointed to it, but you're there for life. Nobody can ever take it away from you. And therefore, for the rest of my life, I will be sitting in the House of Lords, being part of the legislative process of the British Parliament. I know it
sounds pretty good, actually.
It's obviously a great honour. It doesn't give you a salary. You can claim an allowance to attend, which, as it happens, I don't. But it's a great privilege for me, and the reason it happened was because in 2008, when the global financial crisis broke, the banking crisis just burst out into the open in Britain and here as well. I was at the time serving in the European Commission. I'd been sent, exiled to Brussels. And I was the European Trade Commissioner, the equivalent of the USTR here, and I was representing the entirety of the European Union. It's 28 member states, 500 million people, negotiating trade agreements and going head-to-head with Chinese and many besides, all over the world. But when the crisis came, the Prime Minister, Gordon Brown, wanted me to come back, to rejoin the British government, and to take a leading role in what he formed, which was a sort of national economic council. It was a sort of battle stations to stop our economy being taken over a cliff by the banks. And to be a minister in a government, you have to be a member of Parliament. You have to be. Usually you're a member of the House of Commons, but exceptionally you could be a member of the House of Lords. And that's why at 24 hours notice, I was asked to return. I did so on a Friday, and by Monday I was a Lord. My grandfather had been a Lord too. So
runs in the family.
I wasn't, it's not sort of hereditary or anything, but my grandfather in the last century had been one of the early founders of the British Labour Party. He'd been the first sort of general secretary of the Labour Party in London. He was the first Labour leader, effective mayor of London in the 1930s. In the 1940s, he joined Winston Churchill's cabinet as Minister of Home Security. And after the war, he became Deputy Prime Minister in the Labour government under Clement Attlee. Now, normally, the tradition is that if you're a Deputy Prime Minister, you're offered a viscountcy. But my grandfather, being of a more egalitarian disposition, waited for a life peerage. They were in 1959, and he left Parliament, went into the House of Lords. So in that sense, I was sort of in the sort of Labour aristocracy, but it's a very egalitarian aristocracy.
Well, it has egalitarian sense about it, but there might be a touch of elitism.
Barely noticeable.
It's just a thin veneer.
Just very thin.
But I often think that if one were to land on a desert island with a small group of people, probably starting from scratch, we might use the parliamentary system. I mean, it seems to work. At least this is from a C-SPAN watcher and seeing grown-ups holler at each other and still being making things happen. Governance of real human beings that really have their passions, their excitement, their ideology, and their gloves off at times, and very respectful.
And the House of Commons is the forum for those passions, those clashing ideas, to be debated in front of the country as a whole. Perhaps more graphically than is the case in the House of Representatives, for example.
Well, that can get pretty heated up, too. We had an incident in the 19th century where one member went after another with a cane, and there was some bloodshed from all of that, but that's pretty rare. But does the House of Lords have any power in the sense of, getting policy matters tended to, or...
It has the power to revise legislation.
After the House of Commons.
Yes, legislation can, in the main, starts in the House of Commons, then comes to the House of Lords. It's debated, goes through a committee stage. There are revisions, amendments, changes made if they're agreed in the House of Lords. Oftentimes improving amendments, because, as you know, governments tend to pump legislation through, sometimes without finishing and taking a final look at all its detail. So the House of Commons is a good revising chamber, and then it sends a bill, as amended in the Lords, back to the Commons, where the Commons, if it wishes, can remove the amendments. It can change things again. It then comes back to the House of Lords, and if the House of Lords really wants to press its view, it can, in which case it will reassert the changes, the amendments that it's made, at which point it goes back to the House of Commons. It's called ping-pong, this process. But, the House of Commons, remember, they are the elected chamber. We are the appointed chamber. We're incredibly distinguished, obviously. Amazingly insightful. Extraordinary.
I think you dressed better in the House of Lords.
Extraordinary reaches of intelligence, but we're not elected. And therefore, we all accept has to be with the Commons.
Is this ping pong common? Is this those
no.
revisions? That's textbook more than reality,
it will
I bet.
happen a couple of times a year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. If the House of Lords really feels strongly, really wishes to press its suit, it can do so. But, I mean, ultimately, if the House of Lords doesn't give way, and in principle doesn't have to give way, if it keeps that majority intact and wants to press its point, then the House of Commons has to wait a year before it can overcome that veto. But I can't remember when we ever reached that stage. It would be most exceptional.
Within the House of Lords, you might have mentioned this, but is party delineation made clear?
Party delineation is, except for a large number, 150 cross benches, and they don't have a party affiliation. I mean, in some cases you can tell. Follow the whip of those respective parties. But they are cross benches. And therefore, in the House of Lords, what you're trying to do when you're Conservative versus Labour, you are also looking for support from the third party, Democrats, who are much more represented in the House of Lords than in the House of Commons, but also appealing to those bipartisan partisan crossbenchers who are instant told they want to know and that's why frequently the government side is defeated in House of Lords, because when you have the main opposition party plus the third party plus the crossbenchers all ganging up and lining up on one point of view, of course, that's why legislation does go back to the Commons, where the government has a majority. That's where the government can use that majority in order to revert to the original and send that legislation. It's all done in a completely civilized way.
Very special. I want to continue in that vein about where would Brexit fit into this and where the House of Lords might be with that. But let's just get to your book, The Third Man, and let's why don't you tell our readers about the kind of influence and the kind of wonderful position you had with Tony Blair, how important you were there. And don't hesitate to say you were important, because you really were. You were absolutely critically important. What were you doing? Were you like what we would call a fixer? Were you somebody that would go in and there's a problem and you'd hammer out some kind of solution behind the scenes?
I did quite a lot of that. But, I predated Tony Blair. I mean, Tony Blair came into the House of Commons in the 1980s, actually at the same time as his successor, as Prime Minister Gordon Brown. I was, by that time, I'd been appointed at the age of 31 without really any skills or experience to do the job at all, as the Labour Party's director of campaigns and communications. And the Labour Party in the mid-80s was going through a sort of near-death experience. It has that propensity, I might say, the Labour Party to go through near-death experiences. And the 1980s was a particularly bad period for us. We had lurched off to left, we had a particularly bad, sort of rather too left-wing leader from the public's point of view. We were rather dominated by the trade unions, and we had quite a lot of non-mainstream policies, rather as the Labour Party has now. Let's not jump ahead. This was in the 1980s, and the Labour Party was, in many respects, sort of breaking up. And I was 31, and to you from a very strong Labour family. Labour was my tribe, and I felt very committed to it, even though we had at the time a rival centre-left party being created by Roy Jenkins, Shirley Williams, and a couple of others who had broken away from the Labour Party and were trying to replace us as the main centre-left alternative in British politics. I stuck with the Labour Party, went to work at its headquarters, and started with the then leader, Neil Kinnock, a process of basically recovering, saving, turning around, and rebuilding the Labour Party.
A minor task.
A minor task, which did not succeed until 1997. I mean, the 80s, remember, was the decade of Mrs. Rancho.
Very strong.
Very strong, very dominant. We were going on a long journey to rebuild the Labour Party. It was as if the equivalent in this country of the Democrats were suddenly, drifting onto the rocks and breaking up and falling out, public despairing, walking away and trying to find alternatives. And that's what I was struggling with. I brought to this job what I had sort of acquired during sort of political upbringing, which was a very strong sense of purpose. I had very strong Labour values. I really believed in individual rights and freedom, not of a theoretical kind, but the role of good government to provide a platform on which people could stand and make the most of themselves. The real freedom that comes with genuine educational and other opportunities, as I say, to fulfill their purpose. And that's what I believe in. I also believe in the sort of collective strength and organization of working people. I do believe that there is an imbalance between capitalism and labor. I do believe that labor has to organize in order to pick itself up at the workplace. But I was also, in my upbringing, a very strong internationalist. And that combination of sort of social and economic sort of liberal values, that belief in individual freedom, but combined with belief in the sort of collective organization of working people, but also that commitment to working with other countries in Europe and beyond. Those were my values, and that's what I wanted a modern, progressive, social democratic Labour Party to represent. But putting that together again was hard, it was exciting, it was like having a vast drawing board on which you were mapping out, putting together the building blocks in the creation, almost literally, of a new political party. It was the rebirth, it was the renaissance of the Labour Party. We didn't put it off in the 1980s, we went into the 1990s, still struggling with mountain on its side, and then through circumstances, Tony Blair was elected leader because incumbents overnight gone, there was a vacancy, but by that time I was in the House of Commons myself. I was an MP, and I sort of wanted to be my own man. I wanted to be a politician in my own right. I wanted to get up in the House of Commons and speak and intervene and sponsor legislation. I really wanted by this time to have come from behind the scenes and become a and organizing everyone and putting everything together. And thank you very much. And that was both the opportunity and the tension that really dogged me, I have to say, for the rest of my political existence. I did a lot of the heavy lifting for Blair. I did a lot of the difficult confrontational stuff, a lot of the sorting out of issues and process in the party. People who were opposed to him, basically because of his very strong centrist politics, which I shared, but didn't want to attack the leader, would attack the people around him. I remember one person on the left aiming off an attack on him by talking about these terrible people around Blair who operate in the dark. And our satirical magazine, Private Eye, from that moment on, labelled me the Prince of Darkness. And that sort of stayed with me for a very long time, and probably still does until I went into the House of Lords, where I stopped being the Prince of Darkness and became the Dark Lord instead.
Hence the cover where you are.
Cover,
you look like dark. You're just coming out of a very dark place, and
but you know the truth is that people saw me as rather menacing. I was a very strong, disciplined guy. I mean, I had my strong values. I also had the organizational discipline which you need in politics to succeed. But also I was a flexible person. I mean, I believe that in politics you have to give and take. There has to be some compromise. So people started forming an idea of me, of somebody, yes, who was from the Labour Party, but who was, very tough within the Labour Party, and who was quite prepared to sort of trim and zigzag in order to get the party into power. And that, in a sense, is true and untrue. True in the sense that I do believe that in politics you need to show some flexibility and compromise if you're going to put off the great changes and the policies that you want to put in place. But always rooted, as I was, in the values of the Labour Party and in the history of the Labour Party, without, as I would say, being trapped by the history of the Labour Party. I wanted to create a modern progressive Labour Party, which was an explicitly centrist, mainstream political project. So
sounds naive, actually.
So I made sort of enemies along the way amongst those on the right who didn't want the Labour Party to succeed in that way, and those on the left who didn't want the Labour Party to sort of move towards the centre. But it produced in 1997 the most extraordinary avalanche of votes, the biggest landslide victory that either the Labour Party or the Conservative Party had won in over 100 years. And that was largely Tony Blair's achievement, but with a little help from his Prince of Wales.
You make the Labour Party sound extremely appealing. I'm unlikely to join today, but I'm thinking of it because when you mentioned freedom, opportunity, really a level playing field, that awful cliche, and a break for workers who are struggling, and maybe more equitable distribution of what can be distributed. What would you, how would you describe the contours or the graph of the GNP of Great Britain under Labour and under Conservative leadership? The results, in other words, the economic results, historically.
Sort of uneven, patchy. I mean, when we were in office, our then Chancellor of the Exchequer, our finance chief, Gordon Brown, rather sort of very gloriously announced that the economic cycle had been abolished, and that which sort of turned out not to be entirely true. But look, we, during our period of government from 1987 to right up until the financial crisis, the banking crisis in 2008, had steady, sustained economic growth. We didn't have a problem with inflation. Our economy was dynamic. It was a very sort of innovative and enterprising economy. And I like to think that that was, as a result, not least of the business-friendly policies.
Which is surprising for Labour.
Yeah, but we were new Labour. We weren't old Labour, we were new Labour. So we really believed in innovation. We believed in the power of innovation, and we believed in rewarding innovators and entrepreneurs. I mean, we did believe that in a market-based society, people need incentives and they need rewards. But we also believe that government has a role in making sure that real competition exists within that economy, that people can enter a market and not be excluded from the market by incumbents. We believe that there should be rewards, proper rewards for people who took risks, but we also believed in a national minimum wage, and we introduced that right across the country. People said that when we introduced the national minimum wage, we'd put millions of people out of jobs. Not in the least. Because of the strength and dynamism of our economy, a national minimum wage motivated, rewarded people. It was better and more advantageous for them to get into work than to stay on welfare. And that was very important for us.
And that was in the late 1990s. So you did not have a minimum wage until that late historically.
No, we didn't.
How did your economy, your 10-year run that you're describing, which sounds robust, solid, however we want to describe it, how did that compare to Mrs. Thatcher's run as Prime Minister?
That was more of a roller coaster.
More free market sense, right?
In both senses. Both in the sense that it was more free market, but also in the sense that the cycles were more accentuated during her time as Prime Minister. I mean, she started at the beginning of the 1980s in a very troubled state and period and took the economy down. The economy then sort of recovered, but then by the end of her term, at the end of the 1980s, we were sliding again into recession. Now, who knows if we hadn't had the global financial crisis suddenly before us, we would have been subject to the whims of the economic cycle as well. But I think that we were more successful in evening out the cycle, and an achievement which is due, no doubt, both to good management and good luck. And I'm very proud of that achievement. The problem now is, of course, people look back on that period and they think of the end as being blighted by the banking crisis. And there was an element of criticism of the Labour government, which was probably justified, which was that we allowed the banks to operate on too loose a rein. Our approach was regulation, yes, but we wanted the financial sector to be dynamic. We believe that was an important platform for the rest of the economy to do well. But that slightly loose rein allowed patterns of behaviour, a culture to grow in our banking sector where there was too much risk-taking, not enough thought given to in prudential to what the consequences of some of their behaviour might lead to. And I would accept that criticism on the part of the government, that we probably should have kept the banking sector on a slightly tighter rein. As it happened, the financial sector just changed so much. It grew, it changed, and the regulation did not keep up with what was going on.
Well, that happened here, of course. That's what made it global. That's definitely. There's a couple of things, and I'm watching the digital clock here, that we really need to chat about. And one is Brexit, and the other is Jeremy Corbyn, who now heads the Labour. Brexit is Brexit appears to be a bit of a muddy mess right now, with March 29th as the. Is that a hard deadline? Is that a really hard deadline?
It is a hard deadline, unless it's changed.
Yes, right.
And
then it softens up a little bit.
There is a current law which says we leave on March the 29th. Well, by some change of subsidiary legislation, that would have to be changed to make sure that we did. One of the votes in the House of Commons yesterday was precisely about that. It was to say, look, if we don't have a properly agreed deal to leave the European Union by the end of February, we should put back an end of March date and take more time.
Who established that date?
The government, Prime Minister Theresa May. She established both the exit and the leaving date before she agreed the plan as to what we would negotiate for, where she wanted the country to be, and what sort of future relationship we would have with the European Union after we've left. And as a result of going into this whole thing without a plan, we have ended up in a position where she has a sort of semi-deal, which is basically a divorce, but without any proper, clear agreement about future custody of the children, as it were, or access to the marital home, or how our relationship would be conducted in the future. All that is being sort of put off, that can is being kicked down the road. What is clear is that we will sort of no longer be in the European Union at the end of March, but nor will we be fully out of the European Union at the end of March. And this sort of half in, half out arrangement, which is not clarified, which doesn't set out clear legal rights and entitlements for Britain in relation to the European Union in the future. All this is yet to be negotiated. It means that we are leaving the European Union, or no longer remaining fully in the European Union. We're not fully out of it, with a sort of blindfold over our eyes. And we will leave at the end of March without knowing what the future will bring. Now, why is this important? It's important because 50% of our exports of goods are sold European Union. So when people talk about, oh, well, we can sort of leave without a deal, it means leaving without any of our current rights and free access and freedom of trade, which at the moment permits us to deliver goods and services and sell them freely in a market of 500 million people. That is what is at stake. And yet, because of the sort of ideologically driven motivation of the Brexiters, of those who sort of predominate in the Conservative Party and hold the sort of Prime Minister in thrall to their point of view, who are basically motivated by a combination of ideology and nostalgia about what Britain was before we became a member of the European Union. We were a sort of wonderful freestanding
The world's largest navy, too.
yeah, if you want to go back that far, yeah. I mean, this is fighting sort of sentiment. Is fighting with real economics and real trade and real jobs and real livelihoods. And let's be honest, the people who are most vulnerable before this sort of goes wrong, slide over a cliff when this happens without any deal that's going to underpin our future trading arrangements with Europe, will be those people whose jobs and livelihoods are most exposed to the breakup of free trade between Britain and the European Union. The whole point of Brexit is to put in place new barriers and borders between ourselves and the European Union. And you can choose whether to have those borders be sort of narrow or wide, the barriers being low or tall. But it's precisely that which neither the government nor Parliament are currently able to agree on, because that sort of fight between those who want to remain close to the European Union and those who just want a clean break and get the hell out of it, that battle has not been resolved. We don't have that clarity. And we're now on March the, what is the date? March the
29th.
29th, 2 months before we actually.
Brexit won 52 to 48. I think that's correct. Well, not hardly a landslide, but significant enough, obviously, to be a real victory.
Yeah.
And was it sold as that clean break? Was it sold as let's flex our muscles and be very British? And just part two, studying the exit polling and studying the results. Can you say that the Labour Party people, kind of stereotypical, maybe they're in manufacturing, they're in blue-collar jobs, driving cabs, whatever blue-collar jobs are in England. Did those people go? My gut is that they went Brexit, much as our blue-collar went Trump. Brexit and Trump, I think, are parallel.
They are they are acute. Essentially, what you had in the referendum was an alliance of lower income, less educationally qualified people in jobs and with an economic status that had previously tended to have them vote on the left. Plus, higher income, very well-to-do people who just are anti-government, anti-high taxes. They voted to leave the European Union because they want less regulation. So you had this sort of curious, sort of almost improbable alliance between those whose economic interests were quite different from those who were leaving the fight for Brexit, but nonetheless had a sort of cultural alienation, a sort of cultural impulse that brought them to a position where, for reasons of either sort of national identity or sort of defiance of the elite who were telling them that they were going to stay in the European Union.
Right,
Jobs are at stake.
a bureaucrocy in Brussels telling them what to do.
And the bureaucracy in Brussels, etc. I mean, there's always been this sentiment in Britain, this sort of ambivalence towards the European So you essentially have a sort of angry backlash amongst people who were attending, who were on lower incomes, but they were angry about stagnating incomes. They felt sort of culturally alienated. A lot of that, not entirely, was to do with immigration and the fears that were stoked up about immigration. But in alliance with a completely different set of people, completely different economic status, who were very well-to-do, very cushioned, very protected, who essentially were anti-Europe because they're anti-government, and they saw the European Union as a sort of an extension of big government, of regulation. And this alliance, I'm afraid, was keenly argued against by those of us who believed it made no sense to be the European Union. But so many people who were listening to this argument, actually, they not only didn't accept the arguments they were making, they didn't even want to hear from the people who were making the argument. Now, the Labour people amongst those, actually only about a third of Labour voters went to vote to leave the European Union. 2/3 of Labour voters voted to remain. But it was enough. It was enough, together with Conservative voters and more further right nationalist voters, or those who just had never voted and just felt like lashing out and putting their establishment. It was originally a moderate value. So it is, yes. And they produced that winning margin. It wasn't a huge margin.
Were you surprised by the Brexit?
Not entirely. I was part of the campaign, although not central to it. But I felt very early on in the campaign this was really not when you're running a campaign, it's like a national election campaign, 87, 97, 2010, and various other elections in between. You have a sort of mental dashboard, and see what the lights are doing. All sorts of lights start flashing, and you realise our messages are there. These people are not receiving.
Feels like it's going to stay there?
They don't want to hear.
Yep, I think so.
As soon as you hit the stage, your mics turn on. As soon as you're off the stage,
We're like tossing shit.
Okay, okay. And what about my little?
click clicker.
Yeah, that's there, is it?
When you walk into your room, you'll see that either an engineer in black will hand it to you,
Yeah.
or it'll be sitting on the stage.
Okay.
Podium.
I've got a podium. The screen.
Sheer act, either prejudice or sentiment or disillusionment.
I've got a podium, and there's supposed to be a little monitor, I think, showing the pictures.
Exactly. So you're in the rice room, so it's a really small stage.
Yeah, I saw it yesterday.
So you have one mic and a podium.
Of course, remember too.
Yeah, so you'll be standing at stage.
So I'll have.
75%.
Yeah. Will I have room to sort of have a couple of pages of turnover page? Yeah.
There's no microphones on it. It's all right here.
And the other thing is, so I'm doing that, and then I'm clicking with the other hand or whatever it is. Yeah, but that's okay. But that's fine. That's
Maybe click and then.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I should be able to have it. To some extent, it'll be in my head. But this is my sort of insurance policy.
Yes, and you have that monitor. So
And I've got a sort of
Whatever's on that monitor will be on the screen. That you
Yeah.
can see.
I'm just hoping I can sort of see the but I contrive to tread on my glasses, which I don't generally. I wouldn't be wearing them anyway, actually, because I've been looking at my script. I don't, so I can't for reading. I don't use them, but for looking at a long screen or seeing who's asking a question. But I think I'll be fine. I think I'll be able to. I mean, the questions aren't there at the end. Is that
That's up to you.
Up to me?
So
Yeah.
if you would like to, and then it's just we ask you to repeat the question.
Yeah.
Some people what's the question?
I will try and leave time for questions, I suppose. But if
There isn't any.
there isn't,
Yeah, just make sure you repeat the question.
yeah, okay.
And that way we get them because we're recording all these sessions. So We want to
Right.
hear what the questions are.
Sure. Okay.
Cabal owners and editors, there were only about 5 or 6 of them, who not only threw their newspapers into the pro-Brexit fight during the referendum, but had been maintaining this fight for the previous 20 years.
So they were pretty good at it.
They were.
Well, if you think of two TV screens, one will have 30-second message of Brexit. One will have a 30-second message of, we'll stay in the EU. The Brexit message is a dream to write. I mean, you could say it in 30 seconds.
It's also a
But
dream
the
to
other,
write.
but the other message is isn't it complicated? Isn't it
economic,
lengthy?
It's about trade.
Is it better if we take these with
basically
us
the
or leave them
pro-European
here?
view.
Sorry?
European unity has given us peace for the first time on our continent. For the entire post-war period, we've never been a peaceful continent in Europe in the way that we are now. Secondly, it's driven huge prosperity for us. But now in the 21st century, it's not only about peace, and it's not so much about prosperity. It's about power in the world. And if Europe doesn't combine its strength and its markets and its people and its military capability, we are going to find ourselves during this century very, very painfully squeezed between two elephants in the room. The elephant of the United States on the one hand, and the elephant of China on the other. If we want to sort of maintain our European identity and pursue European interests and European values in the world and maintain some sort of regulatory autonomy between those two big competing elephants, then we need scale, we need size, we need strength around us. That's, in my view, the premier for European unity. Britain, which has such strength and such standing and such global reach, and such international network, such skill, did after all used to be very, very good enough, has got so much to bring, to continue to bring to Europe in the future, which is why it breaks my heart to see it.
45 seconds on Jeremy Corbyn.
Jeremy Corbyn is the mirror image of Donald Trump. He thrives on blame, fear, creating divisions. He thrives on creating a them and us politics. I'm the guy who's going to stand up against the elites and power. I mean, forget whether it's really means it, has the ideas and policies to deliver it.
But he's left.
But he is the left-wing populist mirror image of Donald Trump on the right. I think he is a man of undeliverable promises, unaffordable policies, but also posing a danger through his isolationism. I mean, Jeremy Corbyn is basically anti-Western. Jeremy Corbyn does not believe in Western unity or institutions. I mean, he says he's in favour of the international order and multilateralism, but actually he believes in creating socialism in one country, Britain. He doesn't really want to have an enormous amount to do with the rest of the world. And in that sense, too, to me, he reminds me of Trump, but from the left rather than the right.
Our Writers' Festival is deeply entrenched in Western traditions. We are done. Thank you all very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Peter, so much.